welcome to the UCC channel. This is the UCC Weekly, and I am Checkmate, coach of the Twickenham Persimmon, and unfortunately Jake cannot be here today due to university work, but I have acquired a friend to join me, so welcome Slaking.
Hello everyone, it's good to be here. I'm looking forward to going over these replays, getting involved with the UCC stuff. It seems like a super fun league, so this should be exciting.
Yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks so far. This is obviously week 2. You haven't seen the battles yet, so it's going to be a nice surprise for you as well, which is going to be good. So you excited?
Yeah, I am coming in. I know that Jake did message me. I think he apologized for how long his battle was, or something like that, and asked me not to roast him too hard. So we have to make sure we roast this man when we get to his battle.
Believe me, he is going to be sore after this, but we'll see how we get on. Anyway, so just a quick update on the battles that were happening this week. So the first, or in order of the divisions, so it's Division 1 matches, is Twickenham Persimmon myself versus Elliot and the Michigan Shell. Ben and the Rabid Stunfisk Epidemic versus Alan and the Slowbros. Division 2 matches, Swindon Swifts and Sean versus Anthony and the Carson Cartana. Jake the Devious Ditto himself versus Wouter by the Scaling Shamans. Division 3, we have Rob, coach of Get Power 8, against Ryan of the Los Angeles Latias. Josh of Buffton Beehives versus Beverly Mudsdale of Jack. Blazing Knights Jared versus Flo of the Alcoholic Alamamola. And very Scary Fluffy Thingies versus Tony's Canterbury Concolders. Now, all of these games have been completed except for Jared and the Blazing Knights versus Flo and the Alcoholic Alamamola, so hopefully you'll be able to cover those next week. But are we ready to begin coverage of our first game, Josh versus Jack?
I'm ready. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. So I'll just go over the full draft, and then you can go over the teams that were brought. So Josh's team consists of when I find it, of course, that's the best way to do it. Josh's team consists of the Mega Ampharos, Pheromosa, Staraptor, Donphan, Crocodile, Incineroar, Granbull, Aurorus, Araquanid, Nihilego, Reuniclus and Cartana, whilst Jack's team consists of the Mega Venusaur, Skarmory, Sylveon, Dugtrio, Jolteon, Guzzlord, Ninjask, Claydol, Huntail, Exploud, Greninja, and the Salamence. So do you want to go over what teams were brought?
Yeah, so I've already forgotten who is who, but the first gentleman brought the Pheromosa, the Donphan, the Reuniclus, the Incineroar, the Aurorus, and the Mega Ampharos.
Yep.
And then, did you say it was a Mega Venusaur, is that right?
That's a Mega Venusaur for Jack, yep.
The Salamence, the Dugtrio, the Ninjask, the Guzzlord, and the Skarmory. And I think the interesting omissions from what you said, it's interesting the Katana's not here. Also interesting the Greninja's not here. There's a couple of things that I imagine get brought to a lot of battles that haven't been brought this week, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah, so Greninja's quite a big one that's not been brought, considering when you look at the matchup it does so well, especially with the access to the Water Shuriken, of course, which can threaten the Pheromosa as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he is going to get on without that and ultimately go from there. So we're just going to watch these videos on fast, so we're actually going to be able to get through them all in a half respectable time. So are you ready?
I'm ready, let's go.
Excellent, let's go. Alright, so the lead matchup is the Mega Ampharos versus the Mega Venusaur. So this isn't a particularly good matchup for either of them, but it's fairly safe Volt Switch out for Josh. So he also reveals to have a Calm Mind Reuniclus, which is looking to be a bit of a threat. What do you reckon is...
Always a pain.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those things which has such reliable recovery, and its stats are just good enough that it's able to be out of range of being 2-hit KO'd, depending on what his investment is. So what do you reckon is Jack's way of beating this thing?
I honestly don't know. I was going to say the Guzzlord I'm expecting to come out here, and he fires off the Z move. I'm assuming we're about the same point together, but he fires off that Z move straight into Incineroar.
Are you watching it on fast? Are you watching it on fast speed?
Yes, I am. Am I a bit ahead of you? Or?
No, you're just a turn behind me. That's alright, I'll just pause it for a turn.
I'm on turn 11.
Alright, cool. We're good. So as you can see that...
On the Reuniclus is obviously a good tech. although
Oh,
misses a lot.
yeah, Reuniclus is one of those things which is a fantastic switch into the Mega Venusaur, which can't really do much to it, because Leech Seed, it's not going to lose any health from its Magic Guard, and then it obviously hits it super effectively in return. So it's something which is really going to put pressure on the Venusaur for its recovery.
Problem with Dugtrio trapping something and basically taking out the Mega Ampharos there almost.
Yeah, Mega Ampharos is bulky enough that it shouldn't have been killed, and it wasn't, which is really good for it. So, I mean, he was knocked out in return, but there's not a lot you can do about that at the end of the day. So,
That can be a well played Dugtrio can just take out so many threats on the opposition team, but as you say, fortunately Mega Ampharos can tank a hit.
yeah, Mega Ampharos has actually done its job fantastically well, and it's stopped things like the Incineroar and the Aurorus potentially getting trapped and killed. So that's good for it as well. But as you can see, this Reuniclus is back in putting pressure on Jack's team, and that Dark Pulse does absolutely nothing.
Wow.
So unfortunately, Josh does misclick there with the Psychic. But
wonder why the Psychic value went down.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Just a misclick, which could actually prove to be costly.
Especially with the flinch chance from Dark Pulse.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how much that is going to prove to affect him. And as if by magic.
Yeah, he's got to escape those flinches, but he's also got to try and land a Focus Blast, which is going to be tricky before he got flinched out. So it was always a difficult position.
Yeah, and unfortunately he has to just sack it off to the Venusaur on the Giga Drain, as he hoped it would go for a Leech Seed. But I don't think it would have been any chance for it to heal up again, because it's outsped by everything.
Fire Punch as well, but I mean,
it's interesting that he chose Fire Punch over Flare Blitz, and it's actually working out pretty good for him, because it means he's not taking that recoil.
Which, as you say, I wouldn't have expected at all.
I have to admit, so far everything's going pretty well for Josh. He's putting in enough sort of pressure onto Jack's team that he's not getting worn down too heavily by it.
Even, I was going to say, I'm assuming this Donphan still has Ice Shard, which could probably pick off... Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Could probably pick off a fast Guzzlord anyway, so...
Yeah.
I don't feel like the speed boost on the Guzzlord is helping that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I don't know. It maybe would have been better to go into the Venusaur and give that the speed, because I'm not really sure how he's going to break Venusaur at this point, because Venusaur is tanky enough that... I mean, Donphan just gives it free recovery. I mean, I think his best way of beating the Venusaur at this point is actually either with this Incineroar or using the Hail from Aurorus to stop it synthesizing properly.
Interested if you could get the Pheromosa in on these Protect turns and get the Pheromosa a Beast Boost up potentially, whether that could then do something for the Venusaur. If you could take out the Ninjask.
I mean, it depends on what his EV spread is as well, because if he doesn't have particularly effective EV spread and he hasn't worked out speed creeping, and he's actually outsped by the... it doesn't get a special attack boost or an attack boost, then it's not really going to make an awful lot of difference. But I think it's having the only offensive move of Freeze Dry on the Aurorus is also a real hindrance. I mean, Jack's only water types, so the Huntail and Greninja, so neither of which is... It doesn't really require the Freeze Dry, especially when you get access to Thunderbolt. So I think having Blizzard would have been a lot better for him there. But this Venusaur is just going to prove to be a real pain in Josh's side, and it's actually going back to that double flinch from the Guzzlord earlier. That's ultimately the main reason why Josh couldn't win this, because at that point Jack didn't really have anything that could have broken the Reuniclus. So it'd have been...
That being said, as we kind of said, trying to land a Focus Blast through the flinch chances was always going to be problematic, and trying to recover up. So I
think it's an unfortunate turn of events, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think maybe running Signal Beam or something in the future might be a better way of going about it. Or even, I don't know, it depends on the amount of damage output you need to do, but a hidden power of some description. Obviously there's no such thing as hidden power fairy, but something along those sorts of lines could prove to be really helpful.
Calm Mind boosts, maybe a lower powered move with more accuracy could be the way forward, I guess.
Yeah. Although it's always nice to land a Focus Blast.
That's fine.
Alright, so Yeah, that was a pretty good start to the battle. Solid 61 turns. So, ready to move on to
Yeah.
the second game? So our second game is between Wouter and Jake the Devious Ditto himself. And going over their teams, Jake has Mega Aerodactyl, Tyranitar, Mimikyu, Silvally, Vaporeon, Shiftry, Rotom, Abomasnow, Ditto, Como, Magnezone, and Blacephalon. Whereas Wouter's team consists of the Mega Gyarados, Zapdos, Gengar, Gardevoir, Gastrodon, Zoroark, Xatu, Shedinja, Togedemaru, Amoonguss, Heatran, and the Landorus Therian. So, what's your opinion on the matchup?
Matchup looks interesting. Obviously, we see the Blacephalon brought. I wish we saw the Shedinja on Wouter's side. I want to see the Shedinja.
I
But
mean, I think it's a pretty poor bring. I think Wouter made the right call because Jake has a
yeah,
lot of ghost types and he has Tyranitar.
Shedinja, that's all. It's purely selfish. But it's interesting he hasn't brought the Heatran.
Yeah, good point actually. It's
Guess
something
fearing that it can do much, but Heatran gets Flash Fire, right? So
it does. Yeah.
potential switch in to if the Blacephalon is choice locked.
Yeah.
Flash Fire boosts and stuff would be a useful switch in. Also, I imagine puts in decent amount of work against the Magnezone, the Tyranitar, and the Shiftry. So I'm intrigued that the Heatran didn't come here.
Yeah, it's also one of those things, and especially if the Blacephalon in particular, being that it's the one that's beaten by Heatran, particularly if it's not running Hidden Power Ground, then it could struggle with that as well. So yeah, it's definitely a big point you've made there. So, do you want to run over the teams they brought?
So on Jake's side, we see the Blacephalon, the Tyranitar, the Komodo. Is it Komodo? I can never get these two the right way
It's
around.
Komodo or Como, yeah. It just doesn't make an awful lot of difference.
Vaporeon, Shiftry, and then we have the Landorus, the Gengar, the Amoonguss, the Togedemaru, the Gyarados, and the
Gastrodon.
on Wouter's side.
Yeah. So that is a
I think
Mega Gyarados as well, so it could render the Vaporeon. It's obviously going to Waterfall's not going to affect that, or it's still going to affect that Vaporeon as well. Just a quick note.
True, with the breaking the mold out there, so that is interesting.
Indeed.
I didn't think of that.
I mean, it's if it got hyper voiced, then it would also be able to hit a soundproof Como. But now we're getting into the realms of fantasy, so.
Someone hit up Game Freak, make it happen.
Yeah, very much so. Alright, so we need to watch this one on fast. You ready for this then? Let's get this underway then. Let's go! Alright, so elite matchup is obviously the Landorus Therian versus the Vaporeon, which is an interesting turn 1 play by Jake going for the Protect, with the Landorus potentially being SD or Z move. It could quite easily have broken that Vaporeon, but obviously fearing the Ice Beam, which Jake does actually have.
Wow, that Togedemaru is huge.
Totem Togedemaru, massive.
You
As
could
big
ring
as a
Totem
Tyranitar.
Pokemon. That's so fun.
Yeah.
I recorded this with you just to find out I can bring Totem Pokemon. I'm just going to draft all Totem Pokemon in future.
It's good times. So it's interesting the way this game is unfolding. Neither team is really making an awful lot of progress into the other one's team. And every time I've watched this,
play was interesting there.
I've never ever noticed. I didn't even notice the first time seeing that Endeavour. So every time Jake went into the Blacephalon, I didn't even. He said in his commentary that he was expecting an Endeavour, and I was thinking, I didn't even realise that he would be running Endeavour, and somehow he
thought
knew.
that was just an amazing read.
I thought it was an amazing read. I'm sorry, but that was less impressive now, Jake. May the roasting commence.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we promised we would.
He's starting off by trying to roast a Gastrodon.
I wonder what cooked Gastrodon would taste like. I mean, we need to probably focus on the battle and not
Yeah,
get
cooked
sidetracked.
Gastrodon. It's probably a bit like the French food of snails, I guess.
Jake's actually, his defensive reads, I'm going to give him some credit, have been quite nice.
They
he's
have
seen the
been
toxic
very
come
good.
out.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that 100%, and I think that the way he's using some of his mons and avoiding the Toxic, for example, is really good.
Doing what Amoonguss does best, and is it just
Interesting that it's a substitute variant. That's a fairly uncommon move to find on an Amoonguss. But it's a very slow-paced game.
it's not really doing a lot. It's subbing and whatever, but it's not really doing a lot. Okay, here we go.
What turn are you on?
See 2.
Okay.
Am I ahead of you or?
No, just a couple of turns behind. That's alright though. It seems to be that Jake is really using the Vaporeon's Wish support well, and actually being able to heal up his supportive mons, which is really proving to be a problem for what Valta's strategy seems to be, of just whittling down Jake's team.
Oh god, this is so stally though. The Amoonguss and the Vaporeon are really here and doing what they do.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be interesting to see how either one tries to actually break the other one, but it seems to be that one of them is trying to use a stall to break the other one's stall. Every time we go into Gastrodon, he brings out the Vaporeon, and every time we go into the Vaporeon, he brings out the Amoonguss. And it's just, everything's just cycling around at this point.
Is Blacephalon healthy? I think that's important, because Blacephalon has been the only thing really putting on any offensive pressure, so
oh,
I
nice
appreciate his
offensive
wish
double
support
there.
for that.
So I appreciate Jake's trying to actually make some plays here and actually get in something which can threaten the double out, which is so obvious from Valta. But everything he's bringing in doesn't really deal with the other one, so it's going to be quite hard for him to work out what the best way to go about breaking them is. Interesting he has Stealth Rock Como. What do you reckon on that?
I didn't even realize it got Stealth Rock, if I'm honest. I've never used Como, so that's interesting. But
it's a Gen 7 tutor move.
Obviously, you expect some kind of setup sweeper, so I think it's interesting.
And especially as it's allowed to have the Clangorous Soul Blaze as well.
If he has it on the T-Tar as well, if he brought rocks on both, or just on his...
Oh, big burn on the Gyarados. As he tries something different, he just gets caught with the burn.
I guess that's why you don't make those risky switches, but that is unfortunate.
I mean, I can appreciate him wanting to actually move the battle on anywhere at all. But he manages
I'm
to...
grateful.
That's a big wish into the Magnezone as well, bringing that straight back up again. Really
nice. Because the Amoonguss had slowly been grinding the Magnezone down.
Yeah.
Very slowly.
Giga Drain at a time. But the Amoonguss at this point is starting to run out of synthesis as well. It's used quite a lot, and it's not really doing anything at the moment. I think
this one feels like PP stall could be a real thing here.
Yeah, we just need pressure Magnezone.
That would be nice.
It's the best way to go about it, really. Only set. People always say pressure's underrated. It's fantastic.
It got Tri-Attack. That's news to me as well.
I mean, it does as a Magneton when it's 3 things, I guess.
Makes sense now that I've heard it. I'd never seen that before. Maybe it's common, I don't know.
It's not common at all.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not quite sure why he's brought it, but you'll have to go and... I'll plug his channel. You have to go and watch his channel and find out why he's brought the Tri-Attack. Nice plug.
I hope you're holding up
I am totally holding a plug. I am totally holding a plug. Aha, there's a plug.
Sponging things.
Alright, so it turns 77, and still nothing's really happened.
And then Gyarados is dead, which is very good for Jake.
And he actually got a freeze, which is pretty cool. And turn 78, he gets a double freeze. Amazing. That's what I like to see. And he actually, I mean, in fairness, I don't know, I want to hear what you think about this as well, but I think those 2 freezes, they're not as big as I think it could be made out to be. And my reasoning behind that is the Amoongus isn't going to lose any PP, and it can just heal up anyway with Regenerator. And the Gastrodon, it's Gastrodon, so it's going to more than likely have Scald, which is going to thaw itself. So what do you reckon? So he decides to bring in the Blacephalon on the frozen Amoongus, which is nice, and it actually fires off a Mind Blown, thawing the Gastrodon. But I think if this Gastrodon has Scald anyway, that shouldn't really make an awful lot of difference. So he tries to make a nice aggressive double into the Shiftry, which is nice as well. And he actually gets the play right on the Sucker Punch, which means the Gengar's also gone, after making some nice plays around the Landorus as well. And now we go back to Amoongus and Vaporeon.
the dreadful duo.
Yeah, so about to get some hacks of his own with the Spadef drop on the Earth Power. It's huge, isn't it? Completely. Making up for those freezes, don't you reckon?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Now, Jake's making some weird plays by trying to beat a Gastrodon with a... or Scalding Gastrodon with a Tyranitar.
I think that's called desperation. I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, perhaps. But he does have a Shiftry, so I mean, it's not the end of the world. But it does just bring out the Amoongus. Alright, so you've breached turn 100. And we are still no closer to finding out who's going to lose first. Alright, so he does Mind Blown the Gastrodon. And he actually double Mind Blows. He sacrifices his Blacephalon to kill the Gastrodon, which I like. I appreciate that.
So I think it moves the battle on.
It's essentially finished the battle, because the Togedemaru died to rocks. Oh no, this Amoongus actually had to thaw, didn't it? It just had to.
Got to be running out of synthesis anyway, so it is just a timer now.
If I recall, he only had like 2 synthesis left at this point. Maybe 1.
I think the inevitable will happen pretty soon.
It really should do. But I mean, if he had more synthesis at this point, Jake's best way of defeating this Amoongus is gone. So it'd be really funny if he was able to get completely stalled out of a team of 5 by an Amoongus.
Funny, but it'd be agony to watch.
Oh, I would be quite happy watching that. I could do with a good laugh about it.
Me and Jake, I suppose, it always makes it funnier when it's a friend, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So Valter's playing pretty well around the Protect and stuff like that, getting up substitutes for free. But I'm not sure if it's actually helping him, and he does actually manage to Toxic this Vaporeon. So it'd be interesting to see who's going to die first. Whether the Vaporeon is going to faint from Toxic, or whether the Amoongus is going to run out of Synthesis. Oh, and it looks like it's run out of Synthesis. He's starting going for double Toxic, and he can't substitute up. Yeah.
The beginning of the end.
This is all over. And turn 121, the game finally finishes. And it's a really good win for Jake as well. A nice 5-0 win. Amazing that only 7 things died in 121 turns.
Actually.
So what's your overall view on that battle?
Vaporeon made all the difference. I think the way he passed his wishes was really smart. And he timed the Blacephalon, letting it go down to the Gastrodon at just the right moment as well. I think that he really kept his win cons alive. The difference here for me.
I completely agree. I think that it almost seemed like Valtteri got a little bit impatient earlier on in the game by trying to bring out his Gyarados, for example, a bit early, and Vaporeon isn't something you really want to be setting up on, especially with that. I mean, to be fair, he brought out on the Blacephalon. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Even so, the burn risk is real, I guess.
I mean, with Flamethrower, I'd be quite happy risking that if I was Voucher as well, because it is only a 10% chance. I mean, to be fair, Jake managed to get 3 10% rolls in this game, so if I'd have heard about that beforehand, I wouldn't have been risking it.
And I guess if you think about it, over 121 turns,
it's going to happen.
You'd be expecting 12 lots of hacks, so
yeah,
it's the way it goes.
Yeah, I think it just so happened that Valve was playing more defensively, so you'd expect when you're putting on the offensive pressure, things will happen, and I think that's just exactly what did happen, and it just worked out that it was all on Jake's favour this time. But they'll get an opportunity for a rematch, won't they? So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's RNG. That's a game we play, and it sucks sometimes, but.
And other times it'll work completely for you. It's nice to see that Jake's
Exactly.
actually got a little bit of luck on him for once, rather than against him.
Yeah.
But it's always fun
That's
when he has
true.
it against him, I have to say. Look forward to it later in the season.
It's amusing for us anyway, maybe not for him.
To be fair, that's what matters though, isn't it?
That's true.
Excellent, so let's move on to the next game, which is myself versus Elliot, the one guy. So,
Okay, this is exciting.
there has been a video uploaded to the UCC channel, another plug, which is my commentary and team builder for this battle. So if you feel like you want an in-depth analysis, please feel free to go and check that out as well. So, going over the teams, my team consists of Mega Altaria, Megiana, Mandibuzz, Minior, Tentacruel, Virizion, Miltank, Ambipom, Moltres, Cobalion, Celebi and Mamoswine, whilst the one guy, Elliot's team, consists of the Mega Lopunny, Thundurus Therian, Suicune, Alolawak, Nidoking, Mesprit, Cryogonal, Klinklang, Tangela, Gligar, Kyurem Black and the Tapu Lele. So what do you reckon on the matchup?
I think it's a very interesting matchup again. There's a couple of things I noticed. So obviously you brought the Mandibuzz, the Miltank, the Virizion, the Celebi, the Altaria, and the Megiana, the Gligar, the Thundurus, the Lopunny, the Suicune, the Marowak, and the Nidoking. And one of the things that looking at these matchups is I'm curious as to why you didn't bring the Mamoswine. Looking at this with and Nidoking, the Mamoswine, and also the Marowak, I'm thinking half this team loses Mamoswine. So I'm curious about that decision not to bring that.
Yeah, and if you'd like my in-depth opinion, which I don't go over deliberately in the team builder, you can check that out as well. So we do play each other twice. So he'll have the opportunity to prep for it next time as well.
Intrigued to see if he brought the Tangela here. It maybe could have ordered one or two things. I'm not sure, depending on what sets you brought.
Yeah.
That was one that I could see working, but again, that's kind of situational.
I mean, the thing I noticed particularly is that Elliot decided against bringing the Tapu Lele and the Kyurem Black, two potentially massive wall breakers, which kind of surprised me, I have to say. It's not something I was upset about, I have to be honest. But it was a bit of a surprise because not that I wasn't
Black in particular.
Yeah,
pretty nicely against, so I can guess why he hasn't brought the Kyurem Black. But the Lele I would have been interested to see here.
Honestly, I think the Kyurem Black matches up really well. I mean, it hits super effectively 4 out of the 6 things I brought, and the Miltank I
didn't even realise that's true.
I mean, the only thing it doesn't really want to take on is the Megiana, and the Miltank is actually designed to check the Kyurem Black, but even that's not ideal, being that its thick fat is neutralised by the Turbo Blaze.
Breaker for the Mandibuzz, which is, as we discussed before we started recording today, Mandibuzz is a great mon. So
it really is. It's definitely something that's incredibly difficult to break. So I have to admit, with his team, it's probably a lot easier for him than a lot of other coaches, having access to things like the Tapu Lele, the Kyurem Black, the Thundurus Therian, the Nidoking, for example. So I mean, it's going to be easier for him to break than others. But even then, like, you can play about the things that he's brought. So it'd be interesting to see how he decides to work around that, I guess. So you ready to head into it?
Looking forward to this one.
Excellent. Ready and go. Lead matchup is the Altaria versus the Thundurus, and he actually gets a high roll straight off the bat with Choice Specs Thundurus and manages to get the roll on me, which is huge because it basically means I'm fighting against Elliot with only 5 mons, which is not an easy sight.
I respect the play though. I mean, he got
definitely.
the lead right. He spec.
Well,
he just went in, and I can respect that.
Definitely. It's something that I didn't expect him to be Choice Specs. It was something that I definitely prepped for. but I didn't expect him to necessarily go for it straight off the bat. Him not obviously knowing what set I am. And I think if I did live that and I got off return damage, that would have put a lot of difference in later in the game, which would have been huge as well. For example, that Mandibuzz foul play would have actually been able to knock him out. So it's 6-1 half done the other, isn't it? So
that's how it goes.
But things are moving on fairly quickly. Lopunny's died to the defensive Mandibuzz, which is really good. He's
Battle is very different to the last one. Already there's a lot of offensive pressure being put on here.
Definitely. And it's one of those things like the Virizion here actually puts in a ton of work against him, outspeeding everything. I'm pretty sure he's going to be Choice Scarf Nidoking. And the rate he actually went into this Nidoking, I knew it was. But I couldn't risk going out into Magearna, just in the off chance he went for a Fire Blast. Because if he had it, that would have been a problem. So I go for 2 Shift Gears so I could outspeed him. And I actually crash into an Assault Vest on the Marowak, which I completely, being early in the morning, I completely didn't even think about it. So that was my bad.
You assume it's going to be Thick Club, don't you? You rarely see anything but Thick Club.
In fairness, I knew it wasn't, from the amount of damage it did to Mandibuzz. I was expecting about 55-60% and it did 25. So I knew it wasn't Thick Club. I actually thought it was going to be something like a Kebia Berry to reduce the super effective ghost damage, or ghost attacks, because Magearna gets access to Shadow Ball. I kind of expected him to go something along that route, but yeah, the Assault Vest definitely worked out for him in this, and Thundurus, as it is, proved to be a massive problem.
Yeah, that was the MVP for me there, absolutely. It landed its Focus Blast on the Miltank, so it's obviously a well-trained Thundurus, and it just put huge pressure on from turn 1.
Yeah, with the immediate KO on the Altaria, that was pretty huge as well, because it meant I didn't have that backup switch into the Marowak or the Lopunny, which I would have had. And also meant I didn't get any damage off on the Thundurus, which was, as you can see, huge. But yeah, it was a very good game. It was something I enjoyed playing, and it actually we actually had a short battle.
So, how many turns it was? That was my favourite bit.
So yeah, it was a good battle. Definitely enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get my revenge later in the season. But I've had my
surprised to see him, I was surprised to see him let the Lopunny go down when he did to take out the Celebi, exchanging it like that. Now, I can see that he obviously was confident of handling the Miltank with the Thundurus and whatever else, so...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected him to go for Thunderbolt on the Miltank. I wouldn't have expected him to risk a Focus Blast, but because it would have obviously Turk code anyway, and all he needed to do was miss a couple of Focus Blasts, and then his Thundurus is dead anyway. But hey, if you're confident about landing, you go for it, don't you? I mean, that's just the way you play.
He knew how well he trained it. You see, he's been with that every day, so he knows that his Thundurus.
He knew it was going to land because he sniped me for it.
Oh, did he really?
That's why it's called Ben.
I didn't even notice. That's the added dimension there. Oh man, that really sucks.
Yeah, it was something I wanted at the start of the season, but you know what? I got Mamoswine, so we'll see how it gets on next season, or next week rather.
Be interested.
Next time we battle, not next week. I'm all over the place. This is brilliant. Anyway, so after that fairly rapid game, we're going to move on to Ryan, coach of the Los Angeles Latias, versus Rob, coach of the Get Power Act. So, going over their two teams, Ryan's team consists of Mega Charizard Y, Azumarill, Rotom Wash, Metagross, Whimsicott, Jellicent, Musharna, Rampardos, Shiinotic, Cresselia, Serperior and Excadrill, whilst Rob's team consists of the Mega Swampert, Celesteela, Hooper, Haxorus, Smeargle, Ludicolo, Lanoon, Hitmontop, Rotom Heat, Florges, Pelipper and Xurkitree. Alright, do you want to run over a quick rundown of the teams?
So on, I believe it is Rob's side, we see the Hitmontop, the Florges, the Haxorus, the Rotom Heat, the Celesteela and the Hooper. So that is. And then on Ryan, I believe you said his name was, size, we see the Mega Charizard, the Excadrill, the Azumarill, the
Cresselia.
Superior and the Cresselia. Thank you. I was like, this thing begins with C. I can't remember his name. Cresselia. One of the things I think is interesting is that Rob's draft obviously has a fairly hard rain mode with Pelipper, Megapert.
It's definitely got a pseudo rain stuck in the middle of it, hasn't it? It makes it very difficult to prep for.
And even things like the circuitry landing thunders all the time.
Exactly.
Things like that. Interesting. As for Ryan's picks, I think they all make a lot of sense. I maybe would have been interested in the Metagross here, but other than that, there's nothing that's me. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been quite interesting to see him bring Pelipper, even if it's just to check the Mega Charizard. Just getting rid of its sun and actually being able to threaten it in return. Because that would also help the Celesteela quite a lot, because at the minutes, I reckon Celesteela could get quite pressured by the Charizard. But, I mean, aside from the Charizard...
And it does surprise me that... I feel like if you were going to not try and take his weather away from him, so if you were going to say, okay, you can have your sun, I'm not going to try and bring my Pelipper, I'm surprised that he still brought the Celesteela, because I would then have thought, actually, Celesteela doesn't match up well without the rain here, so...
I was actually about to say Celesteela matches up really well, aside from the Charizard.
That offensive pressure is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how well his Florges can take it on. I'm not expecting it to take it particularly well, if I'm honest. But things like Excadrill get completely walled by Celesteela. In the sun, Azumarill's not going to do much to it. Cresselia's Cresselia is designed to tank and not hit. Rotom Wash will be able to do a bit of damage to it, but he's got to switch in, or be in the Florges potentially. And Superior, again, quad-resisted. So defensively, Celesteela looks pretty solid. He's just got to work around that Charizard, which could be a problem, especially as I don't see a Stealth Rocker on Rob's side of the field as well.
I suppose if he can get some prior chip on the Charizard, there is setup potential for his Celesteela against a lot of these ones. You say something like the Excadrill, he'd probably be free to get an Autotomizer up against.
Definitely.
So there's always that potential too, actually, thinking about it.
Yeah, looking at it, I mean, it's offensively, it gets coverage to check pretty much everything on Brian's team. So it'd be interesting to see what variant of Celesteela it is and how it's going to work around the team. Alright, let's get into it. Ready? Go. Alright, so the Rotom leads.
Yeah.
We see that the wash is slower than the oven, which I would argue is not what happens normally. Normally my oven takes longer than my washing machine.
Really? Okay, you have a slow oven. Usually my washes take ages.
Well, I guess it depends on what set of wash you do. Look how much damage that floor just took. 57%.
Huge.
But then that Cresselia taking a massive 63% from the overheat. But being in the sun, you kind of forget that it's going to have the super synthesis. Actually, so does the Florges. But he does have a Toxic on that Charizard, which is going to be huge for that Celesteela, as we discussed earlier. It's really going to put some pressure on it.
The light screen is going to help him out a little bit as well. I think it's interesting, as you say, the floor just seeing what it could do against the Charizard is going to be important, and it does take quite a lot still.
I mean, that looks like fully specially defensive Florges as well, and it still took 57%. But he does, weirdly enough, let his Charizard die to the Toxic, which I'm not sure if I agree with, if I'm honest. And it looks like this...
Personally, I don't.
Celesteela is actually, we were discussing earlier, is putting in a lot of work against the water types that Ryan's trying to send in against it. And he's not making any progress in terms of breaking it, because it's just being able to sit there and just leech seed.
It seems so safe now that the Charizard is gone.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see how Ryan's actually going to work around that.
Huge offensive pressure either, just leech seeding things, but it does look like it's just going to be an absolute wall.
I mean, thinking about it, it's also quite smart for him not to have brought the rain, because that Azumarill in rain, oof, that thing's going to be doing some damage.
Very true.
And he doesn't actually have a switch in for it, looking at his team, so... But then again, that Excadrill did 19% with an Iron Head, which makes me suggest that that's probably fairly offensive Celesteela. That sounds like it did quite a lot, but then again, I don't know the rolls. And he's also taking the Flamethrower as well, which is kind of nice.
I'm super intrigued by this. This battle's... I think the Charizard was maybe the clutch thing here. I'm assuming that this Celesteela is going to wall out most of the game. I don't see much else breaking it.
Hmm. I'm glad that I managed to get a kill though, seeing as I am Ben Hooper. So
It's a fun one. It's cool to see it being used.
yeah, I don't think he's actually been drafted in the UCC, so that's pretty cool as well. It's got such a high special attack stat. It's weird that you don't see it used more often.
Maybe it just, with it being a fairly new mon, people are still sleeping on it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. So Haxorus looks like it's gonna just kill that. Yeah, yeah, it just knocks out the Azumarill. I wonder what this Cresselia is going to be able to do to this Haxorus under Leech Seed. Because it looks like this Haxorus is just going to set up forever and just kill everything.
It looks like it could be game over.
It's leftovers as well. I did 10% overall. Yeah, I don't see this working out for Riot.
It has been played very well.
But even a 50%, a +5 Haxorus can't one-shot a Cresselia. That's dirty. That is dirty. That's why I hate Cresselia so much, with a passion.
I suppose you've got to respect it, but hate it at the same time.
You can't respect Cresselia. You've just got to hate it.
Just hate only, no respect. I feel like I was wondering what offensive pressure the Celesteela was going to put on. I knew it would be around all game, but actually I think Rob probably knew that if he was patient, his Haxorus would just set up and sweep, and it really did.
I think he played the early game really well as well, I think he used the Celesteela fairly early. Once he got a Toxic on the Charizard, he tried to bait out the Charizard and keep it out so the Toxic could wear it down. And he played that very nicely, and actually once the Charizard was gone, he was really free with that Celesteela, and he played with it really nicely. Certainly.
As you say, with him not bringing rocks, I feel like there may be pressuring the Charizard getting the Toxic on it. But I would have been interested to see had the Charizard had something like Roost, and it could have been preserved a bit longer, how this battle would have gone.
I mean, even if it had Substitute or something to set up on the floor, it would have been really, really powerful. Because it had a Mega Charizard wide in the sun behind a Substitute, and you saw how much damage that specially defensive floor just took. So he would have been sacking at least 2 mons to just break its Substitute. In fact, I'm not even sure if he'd have been able to do anything at that point, because I mean he'd have had to use probably the Haxorus to break its Substitute, but that'll more than likely get Turret KO'd. So it'd have definitely been interesting, something to consider for next time they play. Especially if there is no weather ball like there wasn't today.
Definitely.
Alright, so moving on to the next battle, we have Berry versus Tony. Their drafts consist of Berries being Mega Banette, Thunderous Incarnate, Volcarona, Espeon, Alolan Muck, Regirock, Jumpluff, Regice, Beware, Klefki, Garchomp and Tapu Fini, whilst Tony's team is Mega Sceptile, Ash Greninja, Lucario, Arcanine, Primarina, Rhyperior, Garbodor, Mismagius, Rotom Mow, Umbreon, Mew, and Tornadus Therian.
Okay, and we've seen brought the Greninja, the Tornadus, the Rhyperior, the Arcanine, the Umbreon, and the Mew. Now I'm kind of looking at this. We've got Regen on the Tornadus, you've got Arcanine and Wish Passing Umbreon potentially, and I'm thinking this could be a fat team. This could be another dragged out battle. On that side, that looks like a bulky team.
It looks to be almost incredibly bulky, and then Ash Greninja just sitting at the end. So when they're worn down enough, it just comes in and just clears up, which it looks like to be a fairly strong strategy almost. Do you want to run over Berry's team?
Yeah, on the other side we obviously the Garchomp, the Tornadus, the Thunderous, the Klefki, the Finny, the Espeon, and the Volcarona.
It's also something
I would be
else.
interested.
Go on, sorry.
I'd be interested to see actually the Volcarona here.
Yeah.
If it could get enough chip on a couple of things, set up with some Quiver Dancers with coverage for Giga Drain, things like that. I feel like the Volcarona actually has sweet potential in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I have done a bit of. I did help Tony with a bit of team testing or team ideas, so particularly around that Volcarona. So I do know certainly some strats against it. But looking at even his whole draft overall, it's incredibly weak to Volcarona. So he's going to have to play around that very carefully.
Things like the Arcanine could be very important here.
Yeah, definitely, especially if it's more of a specially defensive variant. I mean, you can tech, I don't know, something like Natural Gift Rock as well, being that you can use the Charty berry. It's not even a useless berry, potentially as well. So, just
So
go on, sorry.
this as well. I think this is the first battle that we haven't seen either side bring a Mega for. Mega Sceptile and the Mega Banette both left at home.
Yeah,
I
very
think
true.
this is the first one. So obviously people just preferring their power in their drafts rather than their Megas. I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, potentially Mega Banette is fodder for Greninja, so perhaps you didn't want to bring it for that reason, because it just allows a free battle bond. And
Yeah.
the Sceptile, I mean, it doesn't really have a hugely great matchup, although it outspeeds everything. Um, Things like the Volcarona can beat it as soon as it gets to +1, although it could technically be a physical variant of running that Rock Slide. So, I mean, it's something to definitely consider anyway, but it's an interesting point that I hadn't actually noticed. So, yeah. Alright, let's head into it. You ready?
Yep.
Let's go!
Let's go.
Lead of Tornadus and the Klefki, and immediately doubling about, and he gets a nice switch in on the Rock Blast to the Garchomp. So it's actually a Sword Stance Garchomp, which is very threatening against Tony's team. And actually opting for the knockoff on the Tornadus as well, with the Thundurus. And he's going to make sure that the Thundurus is dead upon switching with the Stealth Rock as well.
Hazards there as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's actually a substitute Tapu Fini, which seems a little bit strange considering if you run a Spadef variant, it could really nicely check the Greninja.
I was wondering as well if we might see the Magnet Rise on the Klefki before it went for Hazards, but
Yeah,
the EQ that seemed fairly obvious, but obviously perhaps not bringing in that Magnet Rise.
there is the Quiver Dance as well, and we do see the specially defensive Rindo Berry, which means it's easily able to take that Giga Drain and it's guaranteed a kill and return with the Rock Blast. Which,
That's smart.
yeah, that was something that Tony and I were discussing about, so I'm sorry, Berry.
I think that's a very smart play though, because it feels so free with the Volcarona there to take the Rhyperior. So
I mean, it's even specially defensive Rindo Berry can even take a +1 Bloom Doom as well. So even if
that's
he did
impressive.
have that, then with that solid rock, of course, so it's not even really a problem for him. And actually being able to pass that wish into the Rhyperior as well, he's able to give it some longevity as well, which is really good.
Tornadus is just as well being a pain.
Yeah,
This bulk
definitely.
is just
Yeah. So he's actually going to bring out the Greninja, and it looks like Greninja can actually just sweep from here. It knocks out the Garchomp, then the Fini. It actually survives with the Espeon, which I didn't expect.
it would have been interesting if had the Gunk Shot missed. I would have been
Yeah,
interested to see how much the Finny could have done in return. So
Yeah, I agree.
with the Espeon living one, I imagine that almost certainly this thing would have gone down.
It'd be interesting to see as well if he knew the Rhyperior was going to go for the Stealth Rock. It'd be interesting if he doubled into the Thundurus on that turn, so that it doesn't. He actually gets one more switch in, because I know Thundurus gets access to Grass Knot as well, which he could have
Yeah.
used previously to break its berry potentially, or even
Yeah.
if it's got something like HP Ice, then it's still going to work as well. But it's Tony's second 6-0 in 2 weeks, so he's certainly off to a flying start this season.
Jeez, I did not know that. That is impressive. And
He is.
and again, like I say, the bulk just kind of, he just rotated his Pokemons and positioned his sweeper super nice to set up and go.
Yeah, definitely.
The gunk shot obviously always has that risk when you go for it, but once he landed the gunk shot, that seemed like game over, and
To be fair,
obviously
I'd
it
never
was.
seen Tony miss a move. So, so yeah,
He
that's
obviously trains his ones with the one guy. They obviously train together, make sure everything.
yeah. I'm
Exactly.
pretty sure he trains with Rob as well. Rob's kind of that sort of person who doesn't like missing. But
Oh, fair play to them.
yeah, definitely, it's a very well constructed battle for him, and I think he went around that things like the SD Garchomp really well, which could have put in a massive work against him as well, especially if he decided he wanted to switch into Arcanine against it for that Intimidate drop.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about Volcarona. Well, I was talking about Volcarona's sweep potential,
Yeah,
but the sweep there, with that tech on the Rhyperior, I think changed the whole game from that point. It put him on the front foot so nicely, taking out the Volcarona.
I mean, if it happened that he decided to keep the Volcarona until the end and just try and weaken Tony's team a little bit more, then the Volcarona could have still quite easily swept, assuming this does not have the Water Shuriken as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So definitely, it's very risky having that berry to be your only solution to something, but sometimes that's the only way you can actually work around things. So the
And he
unconventional,
played it well. That's the thing. Is he played it well? It wasn't. It's a difficult tech to pull off, but when you play it like that, then it just looks great.
I agree. Yeah, very very well done. Okie dokie. So moving on to the sixth battle this week, we have Ben, coach of the Rabid Stunfisk Epidemic, against Alan, coach of the Slowbros. So, going over their drafts, Alan's team consists of the Mega Pinsir, Tapu Koko, Zygarde, Nidoqueen, Slowking, Sarina, Vanillux, Emboar, Alolan Raichu, Bishop, Hawlucha, and the Porygon Z, whilst Ben's team is Mega Absol, Terrakion, Milotic, Fortress, Shaymin, Komala, Charizard, Clefable, Naganadel, Uxie, Steelix, and the Pikachu.
Okay, the Pikachu. That's I wish that was here. So
Pikachu would be
we
pretty
see
fun
that.
in electric terrain.
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering with that matchup.
Ooh,
But
that'd
we
have
see
been
the
really cool.
Kamala brought the Clefable, the Naganadel, the Absol, and the Uxie, and then
Hmm.
on the other side we see the Mega Pinsir, the Slowking, the thing Serena. There we
That's the
go.
one.
The Nidoqueen, the Raichu, the Tapu Koko, and I had to check myself there and say Alolan Raichu for a reason because this thing under electric terrain, obviously with the Surge Surfer, is going to be
Hmm.
super super fast.
He's got a lot on
Seems
his
like it
team,
could.
which works well with that electric terrain as well. Because he also has the Hawlucha in the back as well, which he has plenty of speed control and lots of type advantage. We can work around with type playing as well with it. So it'd be interesting to see throughout the season, particularly how he decides to utilize that.
Yeah, gonna be. Yeah, that definitely will be interesting. I'm really interested to see how much pressure this Raichu is going to put on things like the Naganadel and stuff. That it could check quite nicely, but I don't know. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you can offensively check um, quite a lot of Ben's team. The Naganadel, it doesn't actually look like it has a particularly fantastic matchup. With
Ew,
obviously
no.
the Coco outspeeding it, although it can't do a lot to Naganadel, it's able to Volt switch out potentially or U-turn into something which can take a hit like the Slowking. And then with something like the Raichu, which can quite easily outspeed it under terrain, and the Nidoqueen will take a hit, and the Pinsir, which can have priority, and the Slowking, which can take a hit. It's going to be interesting to see how he works around it. But I
Because you
know,
have the potential face-off between the Raichu and the Absol. You don't know if you're going to see a Sucker Punch or a Pursuit.
or a knockoff.
So you have those kind of mind games coming out, which is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly when I have a dark type like either the Zoroark or the Absol, I love running all three of them. It's triple dark is my favorite on that because if they see all of them as well, it really makes them wonder. It puts a lot of mind games into their head, especially if you're predicting them well. But Ben is a little
Pressure.
bit rusty, and he certainly I don't think he even knows what Naganadel does yet. So He hasn't played Ultra Sun and Moon, so it'd be interesting to see
Okay,
how he uses it.
well, that'll be fun then. This will be exciting for him.
Yeah, he's certainly one for the unconventional sets. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. All right, let's head into it. You ready? Let's go. So lead matchup of the Clefable versus Nidoqueen, which is great matchup for Alan, able to just get up the Stealth Rocks immediately. Ben does utilise the Calm Mind on the Uxie, and he does set himself up, but the critical hit on the Clefable, what do you reckon on that?
That hurt. I felt that one.
I mean, I don't know if it's an offensive Nidoqueen, do you think that crit actually mattered?
Clefairy was pretty bulky, right? So I don't know how much it could attack. Do you know the sets here?
I don't know the sets, no. I'm pretty sure it's Black Sludge on the Nidoqueen, but from personal experience, Nidoqueen is incredibly bulky. Incredibly strong. It's bulky as well, but it is
It's
very, very
an
strong.
all-round very good mon, but I don't know. I feel like Clefable is pretty fat, so I would be interested to know that.
Clefable always seems to be one of those mons which, if you're hitting it neutrally, always able to take 2 hits. It's just something that always seems to. And with leftovers and protect, it does that very well. It always just about takes the hits, but there's not a lot of room for error, so a critical hit really does hinder it. Oh, that Naganadel just missing out on the KO on the Slaking. It'd have been pretty interesting to see how this would have gone if he did actually get that KO.
Is that I feel like with the Uxie and the Clefable down, he's lost his 2 main walls really, or his bulkier switch-ins.
Yeah.
Although things like the Kamala,
Yeah.
physical defense, but he's definitely lost some switching potential, which sucks.
I love the special Absol. That's really cool.
Mega Absol is cool, being able to do special or physical like that, being a good mixed attacker.
It's quite often you see it physical attacking with coverage move, because it gets a lot of the elemental coverage. So it's quite often you see it like that, but having the Dark Pulse particularly suggests it's more of an offensive set. And I like the Thunder Fang tech on the Steelix as well, knowing that the opponent's got electric terrain. Just a shame he got burnt, because I'd have done probably 65-70% to that Slaking.
Would have been really interesting to see how much that could have done.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a very well played game by Alan. He managed to play his wing cons really well. He didn't have, once the Absol particularly was gone, there wasn't really a lot which threatened the Slaking. So
no, and as I say, losing the gentleman's name. Once he lost his 2 switch-ins, it became easier to put that offensive pressure on him, because he didn't have things to come in anymore. As you say, I definitely would want to know if the crit mattered on the Clefable. But it was a difficult position. I felt from the Uxie, the Calm Mind Uxie didn't quite come off the way I think he'd hoped. And it just meant that his switch-ins were so limited.
Alright, let's have a quick look at Clefable. We'll just run a physical set against Nidoqueen. Alright. Sludge Wave. Sheer Force. So if he's uninvested against a max HP Clefable, he does 58 to 69%.
Wow, okay.
So that does a lot. So if he's modest max special attack, he has a 6.3% chance to OHKO. So that crit almost certainly mattered. Unless he got that 6.3% chance. And of course Ben could have had more special defense investment as well, because this is assuming he's just max HP.
Minimum, he's going to be max HP. I don't think it was likely like a max speed offensive Clefable. I think it would have been at least max HP.
Yeah, so. Definitely, I agree. I mean, I don't remember seeing the Black Sludge on the Nidoqueen. So if it was Life Orb, then the crit didn't matter. But as I said, I don't remember seeing it.
Now, even if it had taken, let's say, I don't know, 75% from it, it still would have really hurt the Clefable and limited it for the rest of the battle. So
yeah,
I think regardless of the crit, that turn was very, very difficult.
Yeah. In fact, the Nidoqueen didn't take any damage at all, so we didn't see an item. That's why I don't know it. Yeah, I think the rust is really showing on Ben at the moment. It'd be interesting to see how he works around it in weeks to come. And I think once he gets gets the hang of things like Nag and Adele, he's going to be able to utilize it more effectively.
He's just off picking off that Slaking, which would have made things very interesting.
It would have made things a little bit closer, but I still think at the late game the Raichu would have put in a lot of work. Although without that Slaking, Steelix looks a bit of a threat there. Although the Nidoqueen is still alive as I say.
The Nidoqueen still pressures it, but as you said, it definitely would have opened it up a little bit more for him.
Definitely. So another fairly quick game in my division. So seems to be the fairly fast division.
Yeah.
Just get things done, you know. Excellent. So moving on to the final game of this week, we have Anthony and the Carson Cartanas on the far side against Sean and the Swindon Swifts. So going over their teams, this is a Division 2 match with Sean's team consisting of the Mega Scizor, Landorus Incarnate, Chansey, Goodra, Politoed, Cofagrigus, Caracosta, Credilli, Lantern, Dragonite, Kingdra and Toxapex, whilst Anthony's team is the Mega Tyranitar, Manaphy, Ferrothorn, Swampert, Venomoth, Registeel, Dedenne, Diancie, Hitmonchan, Chandelure, Darmanitan and the Latias.
He brought the Landorus, the Goodra, the Politoed, the Dragonite, the Scizor, the Lantern, the Dedenne, the Hitmonchan, the Chandelure, the Latias, the Manaphy, and the Ferrothorn. And I'm seeing straight away on one side of the team here something that we actually discussed before recording today. The hydration potential on Goodra with the rain set in Politoed.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciating the rain as well.
Yeah.
And even I'm curious as to whether we see an accurate hurricanes here.
Yeah,
which is a scary thing.
Yeah, Special Dragonite is something that's not commonly seen in regular gameplay, but when you can run a draft league particularly, special sets are often much more viable, seeing as you can tailor them to the opponent's team. And when it does get stuff like water coverage, it gets Thunder, it gets Fire Blast, so it can threaten everything on Anthony's team with it. And the thing I find most interesting is that Anthony opted not to bring his Mega Tyranitar, which would combat the rain, which is one of the prominent things on Sean's team.
So again, we see our second time where we could have had a weather war, and it's not happening. So it's interesting that two coaches have decided
they've almost
not
bailed
to
out
try
of it.
and hard counter the weather. Yeah. And last time it worked for, I think it was Rob, right? Not bringing his rain against the sun.
Definitely.
It really worked for him. So it'd be interesting to see whether it works as well again here.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess the other thing to look at is the Landorus as well, with his best switching looking like the Latias. So it'd be interesting to see how that works as well. Although Hitmonchan's special defense is very reasonable, I'd definitely expect that to be able to take a hit, especially if it's something like Assault Vest.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Assault Vest on there.
Alright, you ready? Let's hop in and go. So Landorus versus Ferrothorn lead. He opts to just show out the Earth Power immediately, but then a very brave play just sticking in, taking a knockoff with the Ferrothorn for a Leech Seed, which is going to put Sean in a bit of an early predicament.
Yeah, Life Orb on the Goodra. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, Life Orb Goodra. I did do some team building with Sean, and I don't remember putting a Life Orb on it.
That's obviously something he's decided himself. I wonder if it's a more offensive Goodra set, and that's
definitely something to consider, and it's something that is going to have to be considered by Anthony. But it's obviously all that hydration on the Manaphy, and he's obviously showing the Energy Ball as well, which is something we definitely discussed. And dropping that Thunder, easily able to knock out the Manaphy as well. And he does reveal that Rest Hydration, which is one of the things that we were discussing as well.
I just want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
I thought the Dedenne Super Fang was nice as well to really whistle down the Lantern when that first came in. I always like to see Super Fang, Nature's Madness, these moves that just put pressure on nearly everything coming in.
Definitely.
That's all that Dedenne was able to do, really.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see the. It looks like that's probably a scarf chandelier as well, seeing that he switched out so easily or quickly. But he's strangely gone into the chandelier before the Latias, because Latias outspeeds the Dragonite. So this late game's a little bit weird.
That was, yeah, very interesting.
Maybe he did it because the rain's still up, but the way it looked is if he Dragon Pulsed with the Latias before going in with the Chandelure, it looks though that the Dragonite would have died from the Dragon Pulse, of course, and then he'd go into his Scizor, he'd sack off the Latias, bring in the Chandelure, and then Flamethrower twice, or Fire Blast twice, because I don't think there's a lot which Scizor can do to it, unless it's carrying knockoff.
I mean, the only thing I could say is that looking at the chat here on the right hand side, asking if it was banded Dragonite anyway.
Mm.
If that is the case, maybe he thought he could live when he couldn't, and that's why he didn't want to risk the Latias yet.
Yeah, well, it definitely was a banded Dragonite. It was, as I say, I did do a bit of team building with Sean. So, banded Dragonite we know hits like a truck. It really does hit like a friggin' truck. And
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you saw her there. It did like 25-30% to the Ferrothorn as well. 27% to Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is tanky, so
Absolutely.
yeah, it'd been interesting to see if it survived and got an extra round of spikes on it as well.
As you say, I think the misplay, I suppose at the end, the Latias should have really have come in sooner, or I would have liked to have seen it come in sooner, taken out the Dragonite so it didn't run through quite as much of the team.
I mean, maybe.
I can assume is that he didn't expect to be taken out by it because he didn't realise it was banned or something like that.
Yeah, quite possible. I mean, it could well have been that he switched out into the Scizor on the Latias, so the Dragonite was still alive. But after coming in on another Stealth Rocks, he would have been in range of a Shadow Ball anyway, because I believe it left him on like 21% with the... Yeah, it did 20%. He had let 20% left from the Dragon Pulse for the Dragon Pulse to kill, so the Shadow Ball from the Shandy would have done enough. But overall, pretty sure that was a fine game. That was. It was interesting to see how they both utilised the rain, or tried to utilise the rain. And Sean,
I think it did hamper the Chandelier, as you said at the end, not wanting to come in perhaps on Fire Blast with the rain still up. Perhaps that was part of the problem.
yeah, I agree.
And it obviously had to find a way to play around the Ferrothorn.
Yeah.
Without fire moves on it. So I'm wondering if that's why he went so aggressive from the start with a knockoff into Ferrothorn, because he just thought, you know what, I don't want the leftovers on this thing. If that's what he was thinking, he doesn't want it having all the recovery so he can sit and soak up
could
hits.
have been. I mean, the other thing is his
the
only
rain.
switch into ground type attacks is actually that Latias, which doesn't want to take a knockoff at all.
Off, no.
So he could,
Yeah.
he could. I mean, it covers both things really. I mean, the Earth Power is
Really,
going to do
yeah.
a huge amount of damage, but getting rid of its leftovers certainly hampered it in later on in the game. So it was a good long-term
ideal.
investment, even if it wasn't intended to be.
Yes, yeah. We'll give him credit. We'll say that he knew both ways it was good. So
Yeah, yeah. So good play, Sean. Good play. Excellent. Well, let's have a look at the Season 10 tables as it stands. So, at the top of Division 1 we have Elliot and Alan, both on 6 points. Elliot with a differential of +8, Alan with +6. I'm in third with Ben in fourth. I am -4 while Ben is -10. Going into Division 2, top of the tables we have Sean and Jake, both on 2 and 0. Jake on +6 differential, Sean on +7, so very close there. Oh no, it should be +8. Sean's missing a kill. Good job, Jake. Jake, you've messed up. Damn. Never mind. We'll get him later.
Oh well.
Maybe we should deduct a point from Jake for that.
I think that's the only way to do it.
Third place we have Anthony, 0-2 with a -3 differential, and Voucher in fourth with a -11 differential, having an unfortunately rough start to the season. In Division 3 we have Jack at the top with 2-0 on +4 differential. Rob and Ryan tied in second and third with a 1-1 differential. Rob on +2, Ryan on -3, with Josh in fourth, 0-2, -4. Finally, in Division 4, we have first place Tony with a perfect 2-0 +12 differential. Flo in second, who is only played one game at the moment, who's 1-0 with +5. Berry is in fourth with -11 differential, and Jared is in third with a -6 differential. 0-1.
That 12-0 perfect differential, 2 wins out of 2 is terrifying.
It's a very good start for him, I have to say. He's had potentially a little bit of luck, good bit of prep, and he's managed to work around it very well at the start of the season. It'll be interesting to see how he continues it anyway. Definitely. So, moving on to next week's games, we've got our first round of inter-divisional matches. So I am against Flo and the Alcoholic Alamamola. Ben and the Rabid Stump against Epidemic are against Tony and the Canterbury Conquilders, the perfect team. Slow Bros are against Scary Fluffy Thingies and Berry, and the Michigan Me and Shawn Elliott are against Jared and the Blazing Knights. In Division 2's matches are against Division 3, with Sean and the Swindon Swifts against Ryan and the Los Angeles Latias. Jake and the Devious Ditto against Jack and the Beverly Mudsdale. Vouter and the Scaling Shamans against Josh and the Bluffton Beehive. And Anthony and Carson Cartana against Rob Get Pararect. And of course there is the catch-up match between Jared and Flo. So, now we have the time where you get to decide who you think is going to win the matches next week. So you get to try and predict the matches. So who do you think is going to win in the first match? So me versus Flo.
I didn't get to see Flo this week, did I?
No, you did not. He won his first game 5-0 using baton pass, essentially passing into other mons.
At the minute, 0 for 2, aren't you?
I am.
I'm going to have to back Flo. I'm going to have to do it.
You're going to have to? No worries.
Yeah, because I'm that kind of guy. So.
You're that kind of guy. Okie dokie, then that means I already know what your next pick is. I'm obviously going to be backing myself for the first game, I have to say. I haven't finished team building yet, but we'll see. I'm quite happy backing myself. As it happens,
who will, you know?
As it happens, I've lost the opening 2 matches of almost every season, and then gone out to win out the rest of the season. So that's a bit of information for you that you didn't know to start with.
It's the statistics and the fact that I like to be difficult.
That's no worries. Alright, so who do you think is going to win between the Rabid Stunfisk Epidemic and Tony and the Canterbury Conquilders?
Oh, this is a difficult one. I think that we got to expect Tony to go again with that 12-0 record.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to say anything else. It's like that's
especially as Ben is rusty as well, and he's not accustomed to his team, being that he didn't draft it either.
Yeah, that's true, but it is a nice draft. Like, he has a really nice one.
Definitely. I mean, it was ranked 3rd overall, so I mean, he could definitely pull something out of the bag, and it's not as if he has a bad matchup with some of his mons either. So it'd be interesting to see how.
With a 100% record is very difficult.
It'd be a nice upset, I have to say. I'd always like Ben to win, but I think I'd put my eggs in Tony's basket this time.
He might have something to say about that, but you can try. you can go for it.
I'm gonna say Tony's gonna win.
About you putting your eggs in his basket, I think you need to have a chat with him. But there we go.
Well, we'll see. Alright, so moving on to Alan and the Slow Bros versus Berry and the Scary Fluffy Thingies.
So I've got Berry and the Scary Fluffy Thingies. Who was the other person, sorry?
Slow Bros, Alan. Division 1.
Okay, yeah, I can see now. Um, Looking at the records, uh, I would expect Alan to take this one again, 2-0,
I mean, we've also got
6
quite a lot of
differential.
history between these two teams that they've both been here
Really?
since almost the start of the UCC. They've played each other a lot, and they're friends anyway, so they know each
I know
other's.
so little about each of these
No,
coaches.
that's fair enough. They're both friends. They both know each other's play style, and certainly in the UCC, from what I remember, it seems like Alan has had the slight edge over Berry so far. So I'm going to have to give it the same way as you and say Alan's going to nudge it.
Interesting. That would be a good matchup. I always like it when friends go head to head.
Well, that is most of the league, I have to say.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a sign. That's a sign of a good league.
Yeah, definitely. So our next match is the Swindon Swift versus the Los Angeles Latias. We had a big win in week 1 for Ryan, who played exceptionally well, and then he kind of suffered not being able to prep too well for the Cellar Stealer this week. He's against 2 rain teams in a row, potentially.
I think that the with the way that Sean turned his game, I already know him a little bit, so I know that he's a good coach and is very good. He turned his game with that banded Dragonite. It maybe could have been played out differently, but it was a good bring, an interesting bring. I did say, as we said in the battle, that I felt like Ryan maybe could have preserved his Charizard a little better. He was very close, but it was a difficult matchup against the Cellar Stealer, as we said.
Definitely.
So I feel like I'm gonna have to just lean Sean on this one, I would say.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I think I'm actually going to go the other way. I think I'm going to vote with put my confidence in Ryan this week. I think he's going to want to make up for the loss last week, and I think that he's going to want to do it against another rain team. I think it's going to be more of a challenge, having to, of course, have that probably going to be a weather war. Although where Sean's team is more focused on having the weather, certainly Ryan's team can cope with it not being in his favour. It's not particularly requiring of the sun, so he can use it to disturb Sean's weather rather than use it for himself.
We did see as well that in the 2 potential weather wars this week, these were the 2 coaches who did bring their weather. So
yeah, definitely.
I would expect both of them to more.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say they're both going to bring it as well. So moving on, we have the Devious Dittos versus the Beverly Mudsdale. So I believe both teams are 2-0. So you're going to have a fun decision on this one.
I can't. I'm trying to think which team was Jack's team. I know
Jack
Ditto
is
very
Mega
well,
Venus
obviously.
or Mega Venus or Guzzlord. Ninjas.
Okay. I'm loath to do this because he's a friend and as I said, I'm that guy. But I think I'm gonna have to say that I favour Jake slightly in this matchup.
Okay.
I think that Jack played very, very well. Obviously, just walling out the end game there.
Yeah.
But I like Jake's draft slightly more, and I don't know. I'm going to put my confidence in him. I like to roast him, but I'm going to be nice this time and say that I think he's got this one.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely understand where you're going with that, and also with things like the Tyranitar, you can really threaten the Venusaur as well, taking away its reliable recovery and the synthesis. So there's plenty of ways that he can go around it. There's not really, though, on his team, a lot of really effective ways that he can break the Venusaur. He doesn't have... well, he's got Mega Aerodactyl as a flying type, but apart from that, unless he wants to run his Silvally flying, then there's no obvious ways for him to break it, with anything aside from the thick fat, of course. So it'd be interesting. Although he has picked up a Bomber Snow as well this week, so that's another way he can threaten the Venusaur. So yeah, I'll be quite. I think also he's got that Como, which if he runs for especially defensively or whatever, you can probably use to check that Greninja too, which could be a niche way of doing it. So I think I'll be quite happy. I'll go with you and saying that Jake's been able to pull this one out. Fourth game. Sorry, no, it's not. It's the 7th game.
I was thinking, have we really done 4? Just 3 games? Wow.
No, I am just completely out of it. We have Valter and the Scaling Shamans against Josh and the Bluffton Beehives. So I've got 2 0-2 teams this week, or next week.
Yes. And when you were reading out the fixtures, this was the one for me that I am most looking forward to replay. because having two teams that have had rough starts, bad luck, things like that,
Mm.
I'm really, really interested to see who turns it around this week, who picks up that first win, and be an interesting battle between these two.
Yeah, definitely. So, who do you reckon is going to be able to pull this one out?
That Wouter got really unlucky. If I remember right, he brought some good walls, some good checks with the Among Us and things like
Mhm.
that. If I'm remembering correctly,
Mhm.
and I was impressed with the bulk on his side. Obviously, we discussed the unluckiness of the burn on the Gyarados. So I liked his draft, and I'm gonna have to lean probably.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I think the Pheromosa on Josh's side is actually going to have a pretty fun time. If he gets the right sort of coverage on it, I reckon that he's going to be able to certainly threaten Wouter's offensive threats, and he's going to be able to use its coverage with things like Ice Beam, and obviously with its Bug Stab to threaten. And also go with that newly found Drill Run as well. He's really able to threaten Wouter's team with it. And if he gets the right sort of EV spread, he's going to get a good beast boost, and he's going to be able to really threaten Wouter's team. So I'm actually going to go against you again.
Very true.
I'm going to say that
This is gonna be fun.
Josh, I think, as well, has played pretty well in the first couple of games. He got a little bit unlucky this week, where I think Reuniclus could have had it already. But I'm gonna go with Josh this time.
I think that, as I say, that's my pick of the week for battles to watch. I think.
Yeah. And Josh and the Bluffton Beehive do upload their point of view of the battle, so make sure you go and check that out as well. Looking at the
really enjoyed
final battle for next week, we have the Carson, Cartana, and Anthony versus Rob and Get Power Wrecked. So
I find both of these. I found Rob. Okay, I've got them both. Yeah.
excellent. So we got the Pseudo Rain team versus. This is actually another weather war. They swapped opponents.
And neither of these brought the weather this time, did they? So it'd be interesting to see what they do this next time.
Yeah. I think the sand is going to be less effective against Rob's team. Although, seeing that he has Mega Swampert, which is A, unaffected by sand, and B, it's going to be able to threaten the Tyranitar as well. So it could set up Rain against it, potentially. So it doesn't have to have the Pelipper support, it can run Rain Dance on its own. Which
true.
we have seen Rob do in the past as well, with his Ludicolo particularly. From personal experience, I know how good Rob is in the format, and he's got a lot of experience. I'm expecting that to show today. He had a rough week 1, but week 2 he dominated. He played his game superbly, and he outplayed. I think it was more outprepped Ryan's team. And if he does the same thing again, I don't see really the Kartana being able to do anything against him.
Yeah, I feel much the same way. Rob's one of the coaches here that I think I've been in call with before, briefly, and I know he seemed like a super good guy, but he also really seemed to know his stuff. And the replay this week, as you say, the weather matchup slightly leans, I feel, in his favor. Rain kind of beating sand in a way, especially with the Mega Sand. So I do feel like, yeah, the matchup's in his favor, and he impressed me this week again. So I'm going to go with Rob on this one too, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great analysis. So that is a complete overview of the week 2 and leading up to the week 3 matches. Thank you very much, Slaking, for joining me. It's been absolutely fantastic getting your opinions and ideas. And look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Excellent. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and if there's any constructive criticism you may have, make sure you leave it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.